Hey everybody, it's me. It's a very sleep deprived, but still feeling festive. Matty D. Like I say, I'm feeling festive. It's a couple of days to go until Christmas time. I'll probably be uploading this kind of on the 22nd, 23rd of December. I am feeling extremely tired. I've been working hard in my retail job, which often sucks away some of the joy of Christmas, I find. But I've been working hard, keeping my head down, and I do feel tired. But hopefully, whenever the 2022 comes in, I'll start to feel a wee bit fresher, and things will kind of the pressure will start to lift a little bit. But I'm feeling very festive today. I do have in front of me, I don't want to tilt it too much, but I have a hot chocolate here with loads of marshmallows and pretty little things on top of it, which I'll probably be sipping during this video. But the reason I'm here it is because I'm going to be reviewing WCW Monday Nitro from October the 2nd, 1995. And we're live from Denver, Colorado with a huge double main event between Lex Luger and Randy Savage in a match where Lex Luger's very, very short-lived Nitro career could already be coming to an end. He only debuted with WCW, obviously, on the first ever edition of Nitro, very famously. So there is a chance Lex Luger's career could be winding down in WCW within 5 weeks. Spoiler, it doesn't. But and we also have Ric Flair versus Arn Anderson, which is set to be very interesting. I heard their match at Fall Brawl was good. It's really going to be interesting to kind of see those two wrestlers who have such an association with each other through being friends, taking each other on in the ring. So that was a really fascinating watch, and I will get to that later. But yeah, so we start off with Eric Bischoff, Mongo, Bobby the Brain Heenan running down everything. Pepe has some weird Pepe Mongo's dog, or his kayfabe dog, has these very strange googly eyes, and Mongo, he basically does the googly eye thing so we can say that Pepe's eyes are popping with excitement, and that's what Nitro's providing. It's very, very corny, but the thing I like about Nitro so much, especially watching, these really old ones, is that it is a bit of a time capsule. You get to kind of peek behind the curtain as to what it was like back in 1995. So yeah, not very long into the pre-show pitch, and Ric Flair interrupts everybody. He comes out, he grabs that headset, and he says, it's literally very, very interesting. It's literally just as Eric Bischoff is saying that anything can happen on Monday Nitro, which I just loved. He says anything can happen on Monday Nitro, and there's Ric Flair snatching the headset off him and cutting this promo. He's very excited. He's telling Arn Anderson that he's going to get him this week. Later on in the main event, he better be ready because Ric Flair's going to run all over you. And then he leaves away, and that's the main event. They do a recap of last week's action, which was very good stuff, where the Giant took out Randy Savage and Lex Luger and looked like a real threat and a real star in doing so. And then they cut to Savage versus Luger, which was interesting for me because to me, Randy Savage versus Lex Luger, they've had this personal feud built up. They've had a lot of things kind of going on, a lot of good promos and segments, and Lex's career at WCW is on the line. But I think they wanted to start off with something really eye-catching to just bring those viewers in and kind of again say to Monday Night Raw, we can bring it. We can bring out these stars in this early main event match. So the crowd, they're hyped for Lex Luger, but oh boy are they hyped for Randy Savage whenever he comes out. He is such a star. He is just, I love watching Randy Savage, and this is the first real exposure I've had to him, and he is so good. Eric, he pitches while the entrances are going on, the hotline to where you can find out what the Monday Night Raw results are, because they really want to emphasize Nitro is live, and Raw is taped, so they do a good job of that. Mongo says, if you're not watching Nitro, you're brain dead, like Bobby the Stain's family. So he's saying, first of all, if you're a fan of both shows, if you watch Raw, if you don't watch Nitro, you're brain dead, and obviously referencing Bobby the Brain's family being brain dead as well, which is a bit too far for Mongo. But look, he's excitable, he says silly things, and that's a part of Mongo's charm, and that's why we love him so much. So there's not too much at the start. Randy Savage and Lex Luger, they have a lockup, and they keep holding it and pushing each other, and they actually end up doing the lockup inside of the ring or outside of the ring, which is very old classic wrestling. It's something that you don't see very often, and you know, especially nowadays, you don't see lockups nowadays, to be honest with you. So that was cool. And it's very clear that they're even keeled as we go into the break. After the break, we see an advert for Halloween Havoc, and it looks so 90s and retro when we're in October, and I can just imagine watching this in October back then and being so excited for Halloween Havoc. I love the theme of that pay-per-view, and I love how 90s and retro the promo was, and it was just pushing that monster truck battle between the Giant and Hulk Hogan, and that match between the Giant and Hulk Hogan as well. But we cut back from that, and things are still a wee bit even here. Macho pushes Lex Luger, so Lex properly slaps Randy Savage in the face, and there's a lot of venom behind that slap. Lex, he does this neck breaker to Randy Savage onto the exposed floor, which looks bad. There's a cool spot where they both keep trying backslides and doing them back and forward, and Lex, he prevents one because he has his feet on the ropes, and then eventually he kind of gets Randy into one for a 2 count. There's a double sledge axe handle from Randy Savage onto from the top rope onto Lex Luger on the floor, and it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. The crowd are very over for both men. Randy, he throws Randy's got a bit of a, you know, Randy Savage. He has a bit of a craziness to him even then, you know, even before he really got paranoid in WCW. And he throws Lex onto Randy, or throws Randy Anderson. No, he throws Lex into Randy Anderson, the referee, and takes him out for the ref bump. That leads to Macho Man hitting his top rope elbow drop, but the referee is out. The Giant then hits the ring for the double disqualification, which I'm assuming means that Lex Luger's career and his title shot and everything is still intact. So it was a bit of a kind of cheat finish. The Giant comes out to the ring. Eric saying that the National Guard need to come out. In fact, what on earth am I talking about? It wasn't a disqualification. Apologies. I did watch this about a week ago, and I just haven't had time to record. The Giant hits the ring and he choke slams Randy Savage, of course, and then hits the road and leaves. Lex didn't see the attack, so he rolls over to Randy Savage. He hoists him up in that torture rack, and he gets the submission. Randy, I don't think he taps out, but he verbally submits or something. And the crowd have turned on Lex Luger because Randy had a lot of the heat. There was the ref bump, and then the Giant hit the ring and just choke slams Randy Savage, and Lex Luger benefits from that with getting the victory. Oh boy, I apologize for calling the disqualification early. That was the whole point of things. Randy Anderson was out. He didn't see anything. The Giant hit that choke slam on Randy Savage, didn't touch Lex Luger, which kind of plays into the is Lex Luger aligned with the Dungeon of Doom and the Giant sort of storyline. And it's quite a good storyline, and it is a long-running, recurring storyline for most of Lex Luger's first couple of years in WCW, to be honest with you. The crowd have turned on him now. They boo him really vigorously because it was a bit of a disappointing finish to a match that had a lot of heat and just it wasn't allowed to really get started. So 4 out of 10 for that. It was a good finish. I liked the Giant choke slamming Randy Savage. I liked Lex kind of taking advantage of that, and I'm popped for the torture rack every single time. We see a WCW Saturday Night promo. It's advertising Flying Brian Pillman, although he's more just, Brian Pillman now, the loose cannon. He's moving away from that Flying Brian gimmick. And it's advertising Brian and Arn Anderson versus Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater, who I still haven't had the pleasure of watching on Nitro, but I really, really, really want to see him, and I want to see I want to see these guys. I want to see what Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater alike. So Eric Bischoff, he has Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko advertised next, which just makes me super excited. It's on a schedule, but instead the Disco Inferno's theme hits for some reason, and if Disco didn't get heat before with some fans, him interrupting or him being there instead of Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero must have really annoyed people and irritated people at the time. So Disco Inferno, he comes out, he starts dancing, and boy is it a downgrade. Bobby, you see Bobby the Brain Heenan whenever Disco Inferno's theme hits, start to kind of do his dad dancing and jiving about a little bit, and it's so amusing. I love Bobby the Brain Heenan so much. There's things like that just crack me up, and he's an absolute gem. And oh boy, seeing him doing the dancing when Disco Inferno's music hit while everyone else was irritated and annoyed to see him was just hilarious. Disco is interrupted. There is a short-haired, mustache, intense looking baby face full of fire Eddie Guerrero comes out to interrupt Disco Inferno, and oh boy, Eddie Guerrero, I will gush about him for the next couple of years when I'm reviewing his Nitro stuff. He is so good. He is one of all my all-time favorites. Like a lot of people, I grew up watching his WWE stuff. After he died, his passing, it sent such shockwaves in the wrestling industry, and it was really big news at the time, and a very upsetting thing, to be quite truthful with you, that that Eddie Guerrero passed away so young. But it's interesting to see him at the very start of his career here with a lot of fire. I think he's only just signed. Dean Malenko comes out all intense and stony face, and I will be gushing about Dean Malenko a lot as well in these videos. Both athletes, they're baby faces, and they kind of have mutual respect for each other, which is, it's just so weird to see. It's weird to see Eddie Guerrero. Yes, he's got fire. Yes, he came out and interrupted Disco Inferno, and he got a lot of kind of positive baby face, kind of a baby face vibe about him through that. But he really gets to show his personality over the next couple of years, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited for that. They mentioned about last night's WCW main event when Eddie Guerrero beat Jushin Thunder Liger with a suplex. In fact, they show the highlights, which is great because it was such a good sounding match. Eddie Guerrero hits a suplex, and then he hits a frog splash on Jushin Thunder Liger for the pinfall. They call it some weird name. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was, but they gave some strange name for the frog splash that I've never heard of before. But this has set up this match. It must have been the winner gets to appear on Nitro against Dean Malenko. And yeah, it's really good to see Eddie Guerrero. Watching Eddie wrestle, it's kind of like a cup of warm hot chocolate, to be honest with you. There's some good chain wrestling at the start. They mention that Dean Malenko's the man of 1,001 holds, and that leads to Mongo referencing about 101 sex positions. I do not understand Mongo sometimes. He does some weird things. Dean Malenko and Eddie do some great back and forth wrestling, but they actually, again, first of all, they get interrupted before they're out for their match by Disco Inferno, and then they interrupt yet again to cut to Hulk Hogan arriving in a limo, and in a limousine. Now, like I say, I love the Hulk Hogan stuff. I love how cheesy it is, but at the same time, interrupting this match between Malenko and Guerrero got a lot of heat with me. Jimmy Hart runs up to Hulk Hogan in the limo. He tries to stop him by saying, "Oh, Hulkster, you haven't seen what the Giant did to Randy Savage tonight. You don't want to be anywhere near this building, the Hulkster." And he cuts this really good cowardly promo trying to get Hulk Hogan to listen to him. Hogan, he has his neck brace on. He looks in a bad way, and Jimmy is trying to make him leave. But of course, Hulk Hogan is not going to leave. He says he can't live with himself unless he faces the Giant. And he tells Jimmy Hart that Jimmy can help him in this endeavour against the Giant, which does not go down well with Jimmy Hart. He does not seem keen, and I don't blame him at all. I mean, yes, he's with Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan has a neck brace on, and the Giant just killed one of the top stars in WCW with a choke slam. But Jimmy eventually relents and joins Hulk Hogan in going to find the Giant. So back to the match. It's back and forth. Each wrestler is exchanging moves. Eddie Guerrero hits an amazing top rope dive on Dean Malenko. Dean gets his knees up when Eddie Guerrero tries to hit the frog splash. Great spot that we've seen over the years so many times when Rob Van Dam's been wrestling, when Eddie Guerrero's been wrestling. Dean goes for an ankle pick, and there's a wee series of reversals, and Eddie Guerrero rolls over Dean Malenko for the 3 count and gets the win. Big win for Eddie, and he's very new to the roster, but beating Jushin Thunder Liger, beating Dean Malenko, that's got to put the man on the map. He pulls Eddie Guerrero into the ring, and it looks a bit kind of tense for a minute, but Dean Malenko just very calmly tells Eddie that if he agrees to a rematch, then they're all good. And Eddie says, anytime, any place. So they have this mutual respect. They shake hands. This was good, but boy, you know, it made them look like an afterthought, showing Disco coming out, cutting away to Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Hart, talking about the Hulkster during the match, but it was really good, you know. 7 out of 10, I'm going to give it here. But now it's time for the big Mean Gene Okerlund promo with Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, very touching actually. He comes out, and I think Mean Gene asks him if he really knows what he's getting into dealing with the Giant, and Hulk says that he spent the last night with a young child called Jason Pittman, who was getting ready for a double lung transplant, which is just, you know, very serious stuff, and well done to Hulk Hogan for doing Make-A-Wish and for doing all those things for poor children back then. He said, now, I don't think this happened, but yeah, Jason Pittman was waiting for a double lung transplant, and he told Hogan, belly up to the bar, look that Giant in the eye, take him out and put him down, brother, which I don't think the child did, but it was a nice sentiment. And Hulk Hogan, he looked really good out of it. Even if, you know, Jason Pittman didn't say that exactly, it was a nice little thing. So lovely sentiment, like I say. Hulk Hogan rips his shirt off and says that since the Giant isn't here, he's going to go to the back and find him. Mean Gene Okerlund, he kind of doesn't know what's happened. Hulk Hogan leaves the ring. He tries to get him back into the ring, but Hulk's going around slapping 5 with the fans, finding a fan to give a shirt to, until suddenly a woman with a cane in the crowd throws powder into Hulk Hogan's eyes and starts to beat him down with the cane. Everyone's Mongo saying about how strange it is, how anything can happen when you see a granny beating up Hulk Hogan live on TV. He really starts to get beat down by this granny, which reminds me of the very famous, you know, it's a stunt granny segment that long-term wrestling fans will be very familiar with. It's not a granny though, it's not even a stunt granny, it's Kevin Sullivan, and he's dressed up as an old woman, and Bobby the Brain Heenan just goes, that's no woman, that's Norman Bates! And oh, he's so good with these lines. It was just, I absolutely loved that line. The Giant comes down to the ring with Zodiac for some reason, which I don't know why Zodiac is here in all these segments. He's not needed. The focus should be on the Giant and Hulk Hogan. It makes sense since Kevin Sullivan is the manager of the Giant, and it makes sense, you know, him being involved in these things. And I know Zodiac's in the Dungeon of Doom, but he does not need, the Giant does not need the Zodiac to come out. Mongo's kind of, he's still bemused about the grandmother thing. The Giant comes out, he rips off Hulk Hogan's neck brace, and he does that neck snap, and it looks so bad, and we know what it does to Hulk Hogan. We've seen him with a neck brace on, we know it hurts him. So it was very well built up, and whenever the Giant hit that neck snap, we knew things were bad. Kevin Sullivan, he very poorly shaves off Hulk Hogan's mustache, which is a very, very serious thing. You know, there's a couple of rules in life, and one of them is that you do not touch Hulk Hogan's mustache. And it's some real heat here. The Giant looks like a threat. The Dungeon of Doom look really bolstered and strong here, and Hulk Hogan actually loses a bit of heat here. You know, they get a bit of heat on Hulk Hogan. The American males come out, they try to help, but the Giant choke slams Scotty Riggs, and then Buff Bagwell gets a choke slam. Brian Knobbs comes out as well. They're just all spelling out one by one instead of the 4 men coming out at once. And then Jerry Sags comes out as well. The Zodiac kind of helps a little bit here, and the Giant chokeslams Sags and Knobs and takes out the Nasty Boys and the American Males in one go. There was to be a tag team title match later on the night between the Nasty Boys and the American Males, but Eric Bischoff says that that's done. There's no way these wrestlers are going to be able to compete. And oh boy, it's kind of a thing that still happens in modern wrestling. Talk about burying your tag teams. These four men were supposed to be in the main event, or not in the main event, but they were supposed to be in a tag team title match, and yet here they are, live on TV, just made to look like an afterthought, and even worse, made to look kind of silly. But we need to get heat on the Giant. I know Eric Bischoff, he's not a fan of tag team wrestling. He has said forever and a day that it's not his thing, because, you know, instead of there being two wrestlers to pay for in a match, there's only ever two. Then it leads to being four instead. So it is one of those things, and I completely understand it. But at the same time, oh boy, this did not look good for tag team wrestling at all. The shaving continues. Bobby the Brain Heenan's loving life and having a good laugh with all of this. And what a segment, to be honest with you. You know, he really kind of laid the law here. He took out four wrestlers. He took out Hulk Hogan, and it looks super impressive. So, good segment. And then it's time, after they kind of recap everything, for the main event between Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. And this is exciting because I've never seen Arn Anderson wrestle before. It's something that I've been waiting for a while, and it's something I've never got around to. And it's like I say, it's a rematch of Fall Brawl. Flair, he makes the ring. And Eric's constantly going through, where was Lex Luger? Why didn't he save Hulk Hogan during this giant beatdown? And it's one of those things. It's a good storyline. I really like it. It's something that, like I say, it threads through WCW for the rest of time. It is a continuing theme. It's something that happens for Lex Luger during his entire tenure. But yeah, this is the first time I watch Arn ever wrestle. It's an old school match. There's a lot of lockups. Ric Flair, he comes across very focused. He's doing everything with those facial expressions. He lands a fair few hard blows on Arn Anderson, who is tough as nails from what I can gather, and is very good for taking it. Arn hits a spine buster on Ric Flair, and now I've seen that spine buster, now I know why it's considered such a special move. Because he turns you around and he hits you with full force and thunder, and it makes such a good thud on the mat. It's just an absolutely beautiful move. He goes for a chicken wing after the spine buster. Eric's putting over how many ways Arn can hurt a man. But Flair, he kind of gets his mojo back. He hits an elbow to Arn. Actually a really good time capsule reference here. Eric Bischoff references checking CNN at 1 p.m. Eastern. I think they have the CNNs related to the Turner Network, so they're doing a bit of promotion here, but they're actually referencing the checking CNN at 1 p.m. Eastern to find out the verdict in the O.J. Simpson case. So that is a really good time capsule reference. It's interesting to see. I looked it up. This was the date that O.J. Simpson was found innocent of murder, which is still talked about to this day. It's a big storyline, and this must have been a huge trial. So to hear that referenced in this show was kind of special, and I think this is one of the reasons why I really have taken to watching Nitro, because it's just, like I say, it's such a time capsule. But the match between Flair and Anderson, it was good. Ric Flair puts Arn in that figure 4 leg lock, and he cinches it in, and very oddly, he has it in. We can see Brian Pillman. He makes his way to the ring. He climbs up on that top turnbuckle, and just a second after Arn Anderson taps out to the figure 4, Brian Pillman hits he hits an aerial move on Flair and takes him out. So if you're going to have the beatdown, which does happen, Flair gets beaten down to end the show, Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman take him out. To me, if you're going to have that kind of beatdown, I think it's something that should have waited until after the bell. Pillman, he just looked silly, and Arn looked silly, because watch it on the WWE Network. It does not take any time at all for Brian to hit that elbow drop straight after the bell's rung. So it was a kind of disappointing sort of finish. It was kind of silly, but I really enjoyed the old school intensity. You don't see matches nowadays like this where it's two men who are as tough as they come and they are taking each other on with a lot of pride on stake. And it's just interesting because we know how associated they have been over the years, and it is quite kind of mind blowing to see that Flair and Anderson did have a feud. Everybody who's anybody has been associated in the big tag team, a big group, they always do end up having a blow up in wrestling, so it's not too surprising. But it was something I hadn't heard of the time, and it was good. 7.5 out of 5. Certainly, as much as I didn't like the finish, at least we got a clean finish here. So it was a good Nitro. It was a decent Nitro. They cut to advertising next week where Arn Anderson will be taking on Ric Flair inside a steel cage, which obviously there's going to be no interference. That's kind of the idea, is to rule out Brian Pillman of getting involved in it. Big match, a steel cage, especially back then, it would have drew viewers. It wasn't kind of the almost overplayed novelty that it is nowadays. It was a big deal, and I'm sure I haven't checked the rating yet, but I'm sure it will draw a fair few viewers. What won't draw a fair few viewers is Sting versus the Shark. But I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the Shark in action, and Sting has been a pleasure to watch in the last couple of weeks. And Sabu versus Mr. JL, that's Jerry Lynn underneath a mask. Sabu, haven't seen him in a couple of weeks on Nitro, so that will be good. He appeared in the second Nitro. And Road Warrior Hawk versus Big Bubba Rogers, which I haven't seen Road Warrior Hawk wrestle very much, especially not as a single, so that will be a treat. So yeah, a good Nitro. I'm liking this build. I've always heard that Eric Bischoff didn't know how to book a giant. He certainly did let down the giant later on as weeks went on, but the giant looks like a threat, and it's completely conceivable that he kicks Hulk Hogan's ass at Halloween Havoc after falling off a ledge into a lake or whatever. But yeah, I really enjoyed this show. The Lex Luger Randy Savage match, it had a finish that drives a question that will last for the next couple of, like I say, until the NWO appear. Basically, what side is Lex Luger on? So a very enjoyable show, and I hope you all have a good Christmas, everyone, and I will check you out again after a while. So Merry Christmas. I'm going to enjoy my hot chocolate now, and I'll see you all again soon, okay? Thank you.